Good afternoon.
All right. Okay, so I'm just doing this to check that everyone is ready, and then it's 3 o'clock by my time. We are waiting for
to put it on video, those
the last speaker to join the call. Okay, so I think those of us who are ready and on the call, can we note that this is a Zoom call? So once you join and you are not speaking, please try as much as possible to mute your microphone so that when you are ready to speak, you unmute yourself, then you'll be given the platform. Thank you very much for understanding. Yeah, so since it's 1 minute past my time in Ghana, I can start the meeting straight away. Good afternoon to you who is on this platform right now, and good afternoon to the President of the Internet Society Ghana chapter, the Vice President of the Internet Society Ghana chapter, the speakers of this event, Mr. Musa Stephen Honley, Mr. Stephen Ofosu, Mr. Clement Mauto, and then Mr. Clement Mato-Massen, am I right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, you're most welcome. And then the final speaker, Mr. Victor. Hello.
Fred, we can hear you.
Hello. All right, so the final speaker, Mr. Victor Asante. So we are going to start straight away by inviting the Vice President of the Internet Society Ghana chapter to give us a welcome address so that we are able to move on from there. Is the Vice President on the call?
Yes, I am.
All right, good afternoon, Madam Maud.
Good afternoon. Trying to join in using the video, but let's continue. I want to welcome each one of us to this afternoon's program on community networks in Ghana. I guess people are really interested in what this topic is about. Community networks in generally is the network by the people, managed by the people, and for the people. It became evident during this pandemic that the digital divide is really existing, especially now that when it got, because of internet, that was sort of the main reason why we could communicate whilst we were at home. And a lot of things came to a halt, especially those of us in education. But if we had access, internet access, no matter where you are, whether it's remote or even in the city, and if it's the cost is low, I guess we could have all joined in and then make sure that life would not have halted, especially education-wise. That's why today, when you look around the world, few communities that have come together to put things together, okay, to create their own network, make sure it's managed by themselves, make sure that they have the technical know-how, or make sure that the community have the education or the skill to manage it. At the end of the day, we make sure that we are also communicating, or we are also make sure we, how do I put it? We compete globally. So I guess this afternoon, we are all excited since we have the practitioners, those who are implementing and those who are already doing it, coming to share their ideas with us. And with this, as members of Internet Society, and knowing that other chapters in the world some are also implementing this. We are excited to be here this afternoon. And then with this, I would like to welcome everybody.
All right, thank you, Madam Maud. I think her network is messing up a little, so we'll continue from there. So good afternoon to those of us still joining. This is the webinar for Internet Society Ghana chapter on community networks. Yes, so first of all, I believe a lot of people would want to know what exactly is community networks, and then why are we actually interested in building community networks around the world. In these discussions that we are going to have going forward, we are going to understand what it is that we call community networks, the necessary factors that come into place that let us get to classify a network as a community network, and why is the network which we call community network so important that the Internet Society is advocating so much for this particular aspect of the networks that we have. So we are going to have with us Mr. Musa Stephen Honley, and Mr. Musa Stephen Honley is a staff of Afrinic, that is the organization in charge of making sure we are able to have the registries around the African continent coordinating together to get the right internet aspects of things done for us. Mr. Musa is a trainer on community networks, and he has been doing this for a while now. I personally undertook one of his courses that he moderated, which was building community networks under the Internet Society in 2018. So we have with us Mr. Musa, and we would like to give Mr. Musa the platform to go ahead with us. You're welcome, Mr. Musa.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. It's a pleasure to share with you today on the community networks. So as you already know, I'm Musa Stephen Onlue, and I am an internet citizen. What I mean by that is my struggle is to contribute as much as I can to make the internet better for everyone. That's our motto. Okay, so today we will be talking about community networks, and so the Vice President said something about it already, and we'll just continue in that line. Let me share my screen here. I can't, so maybe you make me host or you give me the ability to share my screen, please. Hello, Fred. Can you make me a host of or co-host of the meeting, or you give me the possibility to share my screen? Because right now I can't. Or I can speak without slides if you want.
You are going to be given the permission right away.
I've granted the permission, so please go ahead and share.
All right, so you have the permission now.
So yeah, as Fred said, I am an instructor. So what I do is I share on the technologies with internet citizens like you, those who are interested in learning about those technologies, and you know, later on implement in their networks to make the internet resilient and robust. Why is it important for us to know these technologies, especially in times of black swan events like the COVID-19, which came on without notice, and we're all obliged to adapt. So today, talking about community networks. So you have my Twitter handle below. You can follow me on Twitter. Okay, so for this first part of the presentation, I was told I have 15 minutes, but we've gone 10 minutes already. So I'll be rushing because it's not the most important, just a little bit of theory. So I will be talking about, I'll do a brief introduction on community networks. I'll talk about planning considerations in building community networks and also in the configurations that are required for community networks. So first of all, if you can type in the chat, let me know in the chat, how do you communicate in Ghana today? So what are the tools you use, like devices, platforms? What do you use in Ghana today to communicate? Guys, I like the session to be very interactive. We are 33 in this platform, so please let's react. So people use phone, social media. Okay, those who use social media, do you have any social media in Ghana? Do you have, I see email. Do you have any email platform in Ghana? Those who use WhatsApp, Facebook, do you have any Facebook located in Ghana? Do you have any WhatsApp servers located in Ghana? Do you have any Telegram in Ghana? So yeah, I guess you get the point, what I'm trying to convey here. So we all use some sort of social media to communicate, especially when we are in big cities like Accra, where we can communicate with each other. What we do is we use those platforms that are hosted somewhere in a data center very, very far away from us. That is mainly in the US, like WhatsApp, Gmail, and all of this. We don't have them. Yeah, well, Ismail is from Gambia. So in the Gambia, do you have any social media server in any data center there in Gambia? You use Facebook and WhatsApp, and all of us, we know that all of these are located in the US. So reason why I am trying to do this is, look at how you connect to the world. Look at how Ghana connects to the world. This is how you connect. So you have here somewhere in Accra, you have a landing point where you have several cables that connect to you. And these cables links you up to the upstream providers, which are mainly in Europe, Australia, United States, and so on, India. And some of them now, some of these cables link us back between us African countries. So we have that possibility to communicate African countries. Like I see a green cable there, linking Ghana, Ivory Coast, Benin, Nigeria, Cameroon, and so on. So yeah, so you see all of these cables, and we have a bunch of them. So this is when you are in Ghana, when you are in Accra, it's easy to connect using that cable. Now, this is the map of the internet connectivity for Ghana. And as you can see, Accra is well connected. You see, it's very red, right? But when you move away from Ghana, let's say you go somewhere like somewhere around Akrofu. If you go somewhere, is it Akrofu? Yeah, Akrofu. If you go somewhere around Akrofu, you are far away, right? You won't have the same experience that someone is having in Accra. And now, so what is the issue with this way we connect to the internet? Type in the chat, tell me, what is the issue? Do you think there is an issue? If yes, what issue do we have here? So what is the issue? What's the problem here? Do we have one problem, 2, 3, 4 problems? What are the problems we have with this way of connecting to the internet? And by the way, coverage, someone says coverage, yeah. All network companies are located abroad. Excellent, yeah. That's all our upstream providers, they are abroad. Meaning what? Consequences. What are the consequences of such? Guys, let's type. I see only 2-3 people participating. Let's participate, all of us. There is no dumb participation. There is no silly question. Everything you say is right, provided you thought of it very well. Lack of infrastructure and affordability. Yeah, thank you, Shadrach. Serum Akude and Kude is like access. Yeah, there is a problem of access, high cost, continuous internet cuts, excellent, broadband policies, no local collaboration. So you see, with this situation, with what we have here, there are many, many challenges. First of all, if we go like pow, the cable is off, we are done. If that cable is off, we can't communicate anymore. We are sitting here in the same city in Ghana, but we can't WhatsApp anymore because the WhatsApp server is not local. We can't Facebook anymore because the Facebook server is not local. So how do we, and by the way, you know, statistics shows that, the data center statistics shows that 80% of the content of our communications in Africa go out of the continent before coming back, right as of date. 80% of our communications are out of region. This is very, very, very bad. And this is something we want to solve. And also, that's the first thing. The second thing is, when we are in Accra, we can communicate goods. It's cool. What about those remote areas, those remote regions? How do we get them to communicate? Or do we think internet is not for them as well? By the way, internet was classified as a necessity good by the United Nations. This was some 20 years ago. So today, if someone is out of internet, it's as if you are denying them water or food. So internet is a basic necessity, and we are here to fight to make sure that everyone is connected. So how do we do that? How do we solve this issue that we just identified? I have 2 solutions for that. Guess. Give me a guess. I have 2 solutions. So I'm waiting for your guess in the chat. Tell me, what do you think is the solution? Making it affordable, but that's the end goal. How do we get there? How do we make it affordable? I have 2 solutions, and I want you to guess. Have our own local servers, excellent, but you don't have servers if you don't have infrastructure. Collaborate with all stakeholders. Who are those stakeholders? Using community networks, that's one solution. Ismail, ISP, yeah, build ISPs in the country, local ISPs, and secondly, interconnect these ISPs. Make sure we have community networks, local community networks, and later on we are going to show the benefits of these local community networks. So if we agree that we need local community networks, we need internet exchange points so that our contents are kept local and we can exchange locally without necessity of going out. So that was the question. So we answered. So now, since we agree that the solution to this problem is building community networks, I'll now show you some few steps on what matters when building a community network, and this time building wireless community networks. So I'll talk about the plan. The plan is made up of 3 crucial steps, because you know, in any project that you undertake, planning is very, very important. If you look at most projects, they failed, like 60 to 80% of ICT projects fail. And they fail because of lack of proper planning. So planning is very, very, very important when building community networks. So first step in planning, you have to do the viability study. Secondly, you need to establish the link budget and the other related costs, and then you need to draft and implement an implementation plan, then execute the plan. So what do I mean by viability study? The viability study is actually studying the region where you are trying to establish your community network, where you are trying to establish the community network. And you need to answer questions like, what physical infrastructure is available? So are there very tall buildings in the region? Are there mountains in the region that I can use to, let's say, install my pillars, install my antennas? I need to know what is the structure of the land in the area where I'm trying to build my my community network. And why is it this important? Because community networks are usually built on wireless technologies. And the cheapest wireless technology, as we all know, is Wi-Fi. All right. So before you go to market to buy stuff like, I want to buy Ubiquiti's routers, I want to buy Ubiquiti access points, I want to buy a MikroTik routers, access points, Cisco, and so on, you need first of all to study. First step in studying, make sure that your physical infrastructure, you know it well. Then the next thing is, you need to know about the technical infrastructure that is in place. Are there some servers that exist already? Are there some data centers around that you can maybe install your servers there? Are there like operators already with their pillars where you can just come and install your various routers or access points? You need to know all of this. Then the third question you need to ask, where is the closest source of power? How are you going to supply power in your community network? Is there an electricity company that will provide sufficient electricity for your equipment, or are you going to use, let's say, generator or UPS, things like that? What type of power are you going to use? And then lastly, where are you going to source the internet? How far is that? Are you going to take the internet? Are you taking the internet from the next city, or is it close, 5 kilometers, 10, 40 kilometers? You need to know all of this. And what technology are you going to use? Are you going to use fiber optic, or are you going to use VSAT? I don't know. So you need to identify those. When you've done that, when you've answered to these questions, you have clarity on what you need. And then when answering all of these questions, you need to consider things like the weather. Is it humid? Is it hot? Because if you are using Wi-Fi and the weather, if it's too cold, then it affects your network. Is it too rainy? Is it humid? And things like that. Then you need to know the type of terrain. Is it like, are there too many mountains? Are there too many houses that will like deflect or reflect your signal? And all of this. Is the region accessible? What are the legislation in the area? You need to answer all these questions. Now, when you've done that study, you now need to make sure that establish the link budget. The link budget is someone said something? Okay, I can continue, right? So the link budget is actually you need to calculate the signal that you emit from an emitter and what you get at the destination. I have a formula there. Later on, I can give you the slides and you know. And to know the gain in the signal that you send, you need to look at very carefully on the devices that you are buying, at the emission, what type of emitting devices do you have? At the reception, what type of recepting device do you have? What type of waves are you generating? And what type of waves are you receiving? All of these are very important to calculate the link budget. Apart from the link budget, there are also other things you need to take in consideration when elaborating the budget. You need to know the electricity, how does it cost, the type of electricity, how are you going to maintain it. You need to know the grounding to protect, that is your devices. And you also have other elements like the tools that you are going to use, transport, license permissions, the towers. You have towers there that you can reuse, maybe from some other companies. What are the legislations? What is the legislation in your country, and where are you going to buy all of these devices? So now that you have all of these, you need to take in account the weather, assurance quality, that is the signal that you are emitting. Is it noisy? Is it going to be like damaging to the people living in the neighborhood? The type of antennas that you are going to use, the antenna tilt, and so on and so forth. So when you've done all of this, you have what we call the implementation plan. So this, I'm going to stop there for this part, and I will be open for questions so that I can say more, because I don't have much time. I was planning, can I take like 2 more or 3 minutes? Hello?
Yes, go ahead with 2 minutes. So I'm going to monitor that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So when you've done this, you need to go into implementation. Going into implementation, there are things you need to consider, like the addressing. You must be using, let's say, IPv4 and IPv6. First step, you need to do your address planning. What address planning? What address block you get? Where do you get it? Do you get it from your service provider? Do you get it from your registry like Afrinic? And when you get it, now you need to like divide it in various blocks. Now, when you divide in various blocks, you will have to allocate it to your various servers. After the addressing, you now need to route. Maybe if you're having your prefix and maybe you are doing BGP with the upstream provider, you now have to do, let's say, external BGP with your upstream provider, and internally you have to do like internal BGP, and then you'll use some other routing protocols like ISIS or OSPF to do the internal routing. And then you will also have to route the packets to the last to the last mile, the customer's last mile. You do that generally. You use static routing at that level. And then now you need to think very carefully of security, like securing, first of all, your devices, where you install those devices, and also securing the communications, like Wi-Fi. When you use Wi-Fi, we know that there are many types of security that you can implement. It is always very important to use very strong passwords, and also you need to like monitor your network very frequently. So I can stop here, and we can elaborate more in questions. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Musa Steven. I believe the people on this call are much interested about what was going on, and I'm sure they wish they had more time to be able to listen to you to finish up. But definitely there's going to be a different session of this webinar going forward, so that we're able to get more of these from you and other speakers as well. Thank you very much for the submission.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have been able to understand what community networks is. And Mr. Stephen actually went forward to give us more details. Please, can we have our microphones muted if we are not speaking? Thank you. Yeah, so Mr. Stephen went ahead to give us the details or the technicalities of community networks. And so I'm sure those of us who are not very technical will start thinking, hey, what at all is this man talking about? Like all this linked budget and things like that. But community networks, what are we going to buy that we are doing budgeting and stuff? But you see, in networks, we also have these technicalities coming up to ensure that we are able to get a very secured and good network as well. So we are moving forward after we've understood what community networks is into what can we do ourselves, that is building community networks in Ghana. So this is the main reason why we are having this webinar. And then we are going to have Mr. Victor Asante and then Mr. Clement Matuasen in this session. So I believe Mr. Victor is available and then Mr. Clement is also available. So we'll start with Mr. Victor in this session, building community networks in Ghana. Thank you very much. Is Mr. Victor available?
Yes, Fred, I am available. And thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
And let me say a good afternoon to participants. It's been pretty difficult to have access to this webinar, largely because one of the constraints of ICT access, essentially a power outage. I've been preparing for this webinar, and lo and behold, my power just went off. And so I've been switching between computers just to ensure that I have my slides ready for this session. And so I sent my slides. I don't know whether whoever is handling it can start sharing.
Okay, he will be doing that shortly.
Right. Yes, but as he does that, let me say that I work with GIFEC and a fairly active participant in ISOC activities. GIFEC, for those who don't know, is the Universal Service Fund in Ghana. And our mandate at 775 is to ensure that digital access is extended to all unserved and underserved communities in Ghana. And when we are talking about unserved communities, they are largely remote communities that you might call them as rural, essentially. And so that has been what GIFEC has been engaged in over the period. I worked there as a senior research manager, and so largely lots of the activities that I'm going to present is on account of our research activities in the country. Yes, the slides are still not up. Yes. Yes, so you can roll. Yes, go to the next slide, please. Well, yes, essentially we are going to talk about establishing community networks in Ghana. And over the period, Ghana has not been too successful with community networks. As of now, I stand to be corrected though, but there is no active community network in the country. And the Universal Service Fund is playing active the role to ensure that Ghana has a similar activity, a similar enterprise. So it is quite popular in the East African corridor, where there are a number of community networks, but we are yet to roll out ours, and so that is what GIFEC has been essentially been doing over the period. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yes, we can skip the outline. Let's go on the next slide. Yes, and so I think it is fair for me to start with what GIFEC has been doing over the period and our efforts towards connecting Ghana. This is just a snapshot on the story that on our story over the period. We were established in 2004, and the acts that really strengthened our existence was done in 2008. And so post the act, there's been quite a number of activities that we've done to ensure that the country is digitized. If you realize the government agenda, particularly over the past 3 years, there's been an intense agenda to digitize the economy, and GIFEC is playing an active role in that enterprise. Next slide. Yes, so this is just a snapshot of the numerous programs that we've been doing. On the left side, top left corner of the slide, you see a mast. It's a project that we've labeled the Rural Telephonic Project. And this is a project that essentially is extending connectivity to rural areas, and this is just is voice and then data as well. As of now, we've done over 500 of such unserved communities. And when I say unserved communities, these are communities that hitherto had no presence of any signal, both voice and data. And so by redeploying this project in these communities, 500 in total, we've connected over 500 unserved communities, and the population actually that is benefiting from this project is estimated to be in excess of 5,000. If you look at the top right, we have what we call the digital skills project, and there is a direct link with you need to build the digital skills for people to enjoy connectivity. There's no point in extending connectivity to rural areas when people don't have the skills to enjoy these services. Now, if you take, for example, if you take passport today, passport for any ordinary citizen, before you have a passport, you have to access that online. Passport today is sourced online, and if you don't have the digital skills, how are you going to ensure that you have a passport? Similarly, other government services are actually being put online. Registration of businesses is going online. Just the recent past, the government support that was given to small business enterprises that were affected by COVID, for example, were largely done through the digital medium. And so digital skills for us is essential. It is very critical. If you are to ensure that every citizen in Ghana is involved in the digital space, you will have to have this skills training. And GIFEC, noting the skills gap that we have in the rural communities, we have a project where we are rolling out digital skills in rural communities. And so over the period, we've done over 5,000, we've had over 5,000 beneficiaries of our digital skills program. We are not just concentrating on this, we ensure that people within the informal bracket, for example, also benefit from the digitalization agenda. It will interest participants to note that a couple of years ago, we assisted artisanal and small-scale fishermen to use digital resources to enhance their enterprise. What did we do? We realized that the fish stock was dwindling, and as the fish stock was dwindling, the kind of fish nets that the artisanal fishermen were using largely were scooping fingerlings from the sea. And so to ensure that fish security, so to speak, is there, we decided that we are not going to allow them to continue using those illegal fishing nets to continue with their enterprise. And so what we did was that we gave them technologies. One is the fish finder, and the fish finder is given to these artisans. So when they go out to sea, they just don't go wandering about on the sea, expecting that they will by stroke of luck get a shoal of fish to capture. But the fish finder essentially gives them the direction. And so when they put the fish finder is affixed on their boats, they don't waste fuel on the sea. They just go and where the fishes are located, they just go and they harvest these fishes. It has turned out to be a very successful project. We did it along the coastal communities in Ghana. About 18 communities benefited from this project. And so if you look at the bottom left corner of the slide, you realize that there's a gentleman who is training fishermen on the use of the technologies that were provided. That for me was one of the very interesting and impactful projects that we did, because ICT cannot just be within the formal enterprise. People within informal settings can also use digital resources to enhance their livelihood. So if you look at the final picture that I have on that slide is what we call the Smart Community Project. This is a project that we started in 2017 with the idea of converting our communities into smart communities. And if you say smart communities, essentially, we want these rural communities to employ digital resources in their everyday activities. So this is the architecture that was developed to run that project. So you look, there's a mast in the middle, and the thick red lines on the left-hand side are fiber ducts that is connecting the mast and then extending connectivity within the community. The interesting aspect of this project is beyond the connectivity that is being provided, there is also the opportunity for the community members to develop local applications that will suit their peculiar developmental needs. One of the major challenges that we've had in our ICT rollout is the lack of local content. And I believe that it's not just for Ghana, but across across Africa largely. You realize that the content is a challenge. We always rely on content that is fed from external sources. And this content may not come to address our peculiar developmental needs. And so as we deploy this project, our idea was that in addition to the digital skills that we are providing in these rural communities, we were going to ensure with providing support to people who are interested to develop basic applications that will be hosted in the cloud. If you look at the architecture closely, you realize that there's something that I don't know whether as I put my hand on the you see it, but where you have the e-policing, it is largely a local content capacity for the community. And so if you're in that community, whatever application that is developed, if it is it is to enhance your farming enterprise that will be stored in that local club and access at no cost to the community members. That was the idea that informed the rollout of this project. And so, can we go on to the next slide? The next slide, please. Yes, so we've done all this over the past decade or so that GIFEC has been in existence. But you ask yourself, in doing all this, have we solved all our connectivity challenges? It's a major question that we need to ask ourselves. Have we solved all our connectivity challenges? As you move on to the next slide, please do. You realize that through the gap analysis that we've done, gap studies that we've done, we have over 4,000 plus of these communities with no or little connectivity signals. I mean, just take a critical look at the pictures. I mean, look at the gentleman on the left side. I actually was on the field when we captured this gentleman. Try to make a phone call. And in that community, you can only have access to a mobile phone signal by going to where the guys are. They have a phone that is tied to there's a tree or something like that. They tie the phone to it. And you don't need to touch the phone. All that you need to do is that when the call comes through, or you just go and then put your ear close to it, and then whatever information that you want to relay or be relayed to you is received. And so this is how people are receiving connectivity, both voice and then data. We will not even talk about data. If they're having challenges with voice, how are they going to access the data? But that is the life that people are engaged in. On the right side is a gentleman. I recall that this was taken sometime last year when we were doing our user experience survey, which I was actually leading. It was a household survey, and the gentleman is placing his phone on the top. Look at, yes, exactly, yes. That is where the phone will have to be placed to ensure that the whole household receive voice signals. And so we've done quite a lot, but there is still more to do. As I said, 4,000 plus of these communities are yet to receive any connectivity. And we are, our mandate is to ensure that connectivity is extended everywhere. And so we've rolled out interventions towards alleviating the challenges that such people are confronted with. Next slide, please. Yes, and so what are the reasons why, in the previous slide, the reasons why people are not receiving connectivity signals? I mean, the top left on the slide, you have large topographical challenges. And I don't know if many of our participants are well versed or they've traveled that far in this country, but there are some communities in this country that have topographical challenges that restrict the deployment of connectivity in those areas. There are parts of Seychelles, also the western region, for example, they have this mountainous terrain, and so depending on where you are, you have difficulty in accessing connectivity. And so it is a constraint for mobile phone network operators to deploy in these areas. The other picture is also telling us the population threshold. If you look at that picture closely, you realize that it is a sparse community. And so if you are very conversant with our northern territory, you realize that you may go there, there is one hut here, and then the next hut is some couple of miles away. And so the population within those vast communities is such that it is not motivated enough for mobile network operators to go there and deploy. You know that mobile network operators, they largely look at the economic viability. I mean, the average revenue that will be derived from a user is what drives them into a community. And so if you go to a community where the population is sparse and it doesn't meet the threshold that they require, largely they might not deploy in this community. And even with GIFEC, in our facilitation with the operators, as we facilitate the operators to deploy, we have a population threshold of about 1,000. And so communities that have population lower than 1,000, they are largely not to be connected. And there is no way connectivity will be extended to these communities. We call these communities true access gap communities. There is nothing that you do that will motivate any operator to deploy to these communities unless there is a deliberate effort to partner with a mobile network operator to make it not even profitable for them, but at least for them to break even in deploying it to these communities. Then, of course, the other issue of regulatory constraints. And in areas where they've already deployed, if you have challenges of, let's say, topography, or you have, or they've deployed to hard-to-reach communities. Today, we are hearing of the spillage of the Barry Dam, for example. That spillage has actually cut off a lot of communities. And so if a mobile network operator is in that community, and the operator will have to, scale constraints like this to ensure that connectivity that has been deployed already and is giving challenges or is having some challenges, for them to go and even restore connectivity, they will have to go through this. So that is even not a motivation enough. And so regulatory, particularly quality of service constraints, to some extent is also a barrier to the deployment by MNOs in rural areas. Then, of course, you have the issue of affordability. Bottom line is cash. Many of these rural communities are very poor, and so they don't meet the threshold that these mobile network operators require. And so there should be some strategic efforts put in place, largely by the government and, of course, spearheaded by the USA, which is GIFEC, to ensure that connectivity is affordable to people within this enclave. And so whether it's by subsidy or whatever arrangement that is designed, it is expected that affordability shouldn't be a constraint to people from participating in the digital ecosystem. Yes, next slide. Yes, so what has been our approach? The earlier presenter indicated, of course, I mean, the subjects that we are discussing is largely about community networks. And community networks have become alternative but very viable means of ensuring connectivity in rural areas. And so GIFEC has been taken with the community network model. And this is the approach that we have so far designed for our rollout. And I must here mention that ISOC is playing an active role in ensuring that community networks become a reality in Ghana. In actual fact, the President, Francis, has been very active in that space. And so our approach is to have, and here I'm wearing the hat of ISOC member. So under the remit of ISOC, you have a project steering committee. So the project steering committee largely is to design the framework upon which community networks could be a reality in Ghana. And per the arrangement that has been put in place, there is representation from almost all the key stakeholders who matter in the ICT space on the steering committee. And so I represent both ISOC and of course GIFEC as a critical stakeholder. We have Mr. Francis Amini from ISOC. There's a gentleman also from one of the rural communities. And so it is a broad-based, multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach towards ensuring that we have a Ghanaian model for the deployment of community networks in the country. The reason why I am emphasizing on the Ghanaian model is that if you go across, you go to some of these countries that have already established community networks, yes, there are quite a number of them who are doing pretty well. But then, of course, there are some challenges that they are confronted with, largely the issue of sustainability. And we don't also want to go the way of the telecenter approach. I don't know whether many of you are aware of the public telecenter. The public telecenter in Ghana, we call them the CICs. These are public access venues in the rural communities to give access to the rural people in terms of ICT access. But we've realized over the period that their operations have more or less become like a top-down approach. So that ownership is not there. And so if you go around, you realize that many of these CICs are not functioning the way we expect them to be doing. Quite a number of them are actually abandoned. But the model that we designed for the community network, we want to ensure that we don't go that way, but we have a model that will ensure that community networks that are deployed are sustainable. Then, what are the things that you need to do? Let me rush through. You have to do a needs assessment, and the needs assessment is largely community-based. You have to find the areas that are virgin communities, areas that do not have any signal at all. And if you are to support them, what do they have that will enhance your deployments, have a better deployment in those communities? Do they have power? Are the people willing to accept ICT? These are things that you need to look at. And the steering committee is actually embarking on a risk assessment enterprise now. If you then, after you've done a risk assessment, you will have to do extensive community stakeholder engagement. That is critical to the success of any intervention, particularly when it is ICT related. And so you go to the community and ensure that you engage a broad spectrum of the community members. You engage the old, the youth, the marginalized within that community to ensure that they all buy into the concept of having their own network. The other thing that is also worth considering is to leverage, identify, and then leverage on existing community-based organizations. One of the things that I've also realized along the line is the effect of the entities like community radio. I don't know whether many of our participants know of the community radio network. Community radios have been existent in Ghana over the past two decades. In fact, last early part of this year, they had their 20th anniversary. And these are largely community-based. And they have some bit of infrastructure that could be leveraged on by any enterprise that is seeking to deploy a community network in the rural communities. And so this is one of the avenues that will be recommended to people who are interested in leading the agenda of community network. Please, next slide. Yes, and in doing so as well, you also need to look for local champions. There should be someone who should own up, or a group of people who should own up to the network in the community. And the picture that I have on the left is something that I took from the Zenzeleni cooperative, or the Zenzeleni community network in Makonsi. This is one of the most popular community networks we have in Africa. And it is actually led by the community members. And they started by having local champions. They're champions within the community, people within the community who will champion the agenda of ensuring that the community has its own network. There are other, the next photo on the right is the technology that could be used. I'm not a technology person, so I may not probably speak to this issue that much, but largely, community networks rely on very simple architecture, because they are not supposed to be, these are community-based activities, communities that are actually poor, and so they don't need any extraordinary network architecture to ensure that their recurrent cost is high. And so I understand that the mesh network, for example, is one of the very simple and cost-effective means of ensuring that community networks are deployed. Then the issue of the backhaul that the techie people say. I mean, we are hearing so much about the opportunities that are available, largely on account of the movement from analog to the digital space. So TV white space, for example, has become one of the means through which the internet could be deployed in very remote communities. One other thing that is also very critical to the deployment of a community network and its sustainability is building the local capacity within the community. And so you don't have to be rely or dependent on people who should be moving from other regions to come and do basic stuff that largely might be probably troubleshooting activities. And so you develop capacity, you train people within the community who will be able to handle troubleshooting challenges when they occur. And all this go to ensure that the operations are not expensive and also engineer sustainability as well. Next slide.
Hello, Mr. Victor.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but it seems we are running out of time.
Okay, let me just run through the
1 minute to sum up for us.
Well, yes, let me just run through. Yes, so yes, the potential supporters that we have, I mean, as I mentioned, ISOC is a critical player in the space. GIFEC is the Universal Service Fund. The fund is close with that mandate to extend connectivity in rural areas, and so it is available. We will also have to look at other donor partners. GIZ, for example, is an interested party in the digital space. The next slide. In doing so, what are the red flags that we need to look at? Community ownership. as we deploy, we should ensure that the community, it is a bottom-up approach that is used so that the community members own up the enterprise. Then, of course, technical support and then sustainability issues. These are the red flags that go to hamper community networks. Next slide. I think next slide. Yes. So this is something that I took from the Time magazine and an article largely about the various phases of development that have come in the past. I mean, now it is not just about oil as a major resource. The major resource is about digital access. And so I keep on asking the question, do we have an option to digital connectivity if we want to develop our country or move our country from the level at which we find ourselves today to the next level? So next slide. I think that should be the last slide. Yes. So thank you so much for indulging me. And if you have some questions, you could put them across. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Victor, for sharing this wonderful piece with us. It's unfortunate that the time seems to be running more than we can follow. So we'll move straight away to Mr. Clement to also share on building community networks in Ghana with us. So Mr. Clement, you can also introduce yourself and then you share your experiences.
Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Clement Matomason, and I know a couple of people are struggling with that name, but that's all right. I hope everyone is doing okay. Yeah, so Clement Matomason have been involved with computer and general internet support systems for the past 15 years. Actually, my focus has generally been how do we solve the internet issues in the rural communities or even in the villages. Now, I have tried different topologies. I mean, I've seen the system called YBAC. I realized that it's not actually the topologies in the communities that is the problem. You know, what we need is internet. Internet is the bottleneck for everything. You know, we can beat about the bush with all the topologies that we want, but the bottom line is internet. Because with internet, naturally the topologies will be set up because people will be able to call each other, people will be able to, you know the drill. The bottom line is internet because we need to move away from, just using computers for entertainment and using it for productivity. And to be able to be productive with a computer, you need to have internet. That's the bottom line of it, And so for me, for the past years, I have been working in rural communities, largely on training young people on how to use computers and moving from the entertainment aspects of computer to productivity. But, like I would say, the bottom line is internet. How do we solve it out? This is, for me, the most crucial and the most important question that we need to answer as an internet society. How do we provide access to the internet? Is it radio waves? Is it satellite? Is it whatever transmission we need, whether it's through the ISPs, but we need internet. And for me, whatever topology we set up, at the end, we want the final solution is access. And if we want to close the digital gap, internet is the only way. I will tell you, we can have all the beautiful topologies, and my colleague presenters already made very interesting presentations on available topologies. But I feel that without access to internet, whatever topology you put in place will still not give the optimum connection that we need. So for me, I am not here to make so much presentation, because for me, after all the topologies, I've studied several of them, we have implemented several, the bottleneck comes back to internet. Where is the source of internet? How do we get access to the internet? So if you have local ways of creating access points, that is internet access points, I'll be willing to share and learn from you. So for me, this is the most important. If you have alternative solutions to internet access, I would like to hear from you, so that the other, my colleagues will also be able to share. For the topologies in the communities, I think it's easy to overcome with, with wireless, with radio waves within local setup. It's possible, but access to internet, because it looks like without MTN, Glow, and those guys, we are all useless. I mean, right now, a lot of people will not be able to get access to the internet. We can have our local connection. Yes, that is beautiful. I'm speaking from Rotterdam at the moment. But if you have a local topology, will you be able to connect to me? No. So how do we get that solved? This is for me the most important. And so I am looking forward to your solutions. Not that I have so much solution to present at the moment, because like I said, there are topologies like the YBAC, that is WIBACK, YBAC, which can be implemented in communities in a very simple manner. You can have it on solar, you can have it on the general grid. But the bottom line comes to, how do you connect this small local community to the larger community, which is where we are at loggerheads right now. So yeah, I wouldn't want that. Most of the time is already spent. So I would love to share in, if you have some systems that are able to connect rural communities to the internet without being routed through the ISPs that we have in the area. Of course, we still have the challenges of mobile network, that is voice access in several communities. But even if those who have internet, those who have connectivity, how do we put them on the internet at a lower cost? So for me, these are crucial things we need to answer. How do we connect the rural communities directly to the internet and not have to route through a mobile company? So if you have answers, I'm willing for it. But if there's no other answer, I think I will hand over the mic back to Fred, because our time is already gone, so that we can. I am doing a bit of research, but if you are interested in teaming up to discover local access points, ways of making access points, I'm willing to join in and then partner to develop these systems, because this is where the bottleneck comes. We come back to, that's the bottleneck. So Fred, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clement, for the piece of experience shared with us. And then I think to your question about whether there is a way to connect directly the remote areas to the cloud internet, there's actually a company that I came up across with. I met one of their staff who is a marketer, but actually I don't remember the name of the company. But what I know is they have a solution, which is a cloud internet. So what their solution does is that it's like the regular router or the regular access point devices that we have, the ones that we sell, like that. Hey!
So Fred is not speaking anymore.
Yeah, hello, sorry about that. So you see, this is the problem of connectivity, and we are actually discussing connectivity here. So I shouldn't have touched my internet source. Yeah. So what they have is able to, let's say, connect with the local providers, and then is also able to provide you with a direct connectivity to what they call as cloud network. But that cloud network, the challenge that we have is the cost involved. The cost involved. So whilst we go on with the webinar, I'm going to check my mail and then get back so that I'll be able to share their solution in the chat so we could all see it in the chat. Thank you very much for this.
Okay, before you move on, I'll have something to say about that intervention. So you first of all need to define clearly what is the internet. The internet is the connection of networks. And before we get to connect these networks, we have to make sure that independently networks are okay. And this is what we are trying to do here. Like in Ghana, as if you look at the map I shared before, you will see that the most of the connection is in Ghana, is in Accra. The rest of the country is really not well connected. Meaning when you move to those other regions, you can't connect to the internet, even though we have like 5 connecting points in Accra. So the problem we are trying to solve here is, first of all, connect the unconnected. Those that are in those remote areas, they should also have access to this internet. This is what we call community network. And sorry, we didn't define community network well. Community network, in community network, you have 2 words. That is the community. That is the community coming together to create a network that brings value to that community. And the network is that part, that modern part that they're talking about, connecting to the internet. That's why when I was presenting, I said, one of the considerations you need to take, one of the things you need to take into account when doing the link budget is when doing the feasibility study is to first study the distance to the next access point, that is the internet access point. So we will never put the internet aside. Internet is like that connection of all networks. But it is useless if you are connected to the internet while your network is not well designed. And this is what we are trying to do. And if you look at, when we are talking about community networks, you will see even in cities like Detroit in the US, they do community networks because there are areas even in the US that are not connected. And these people, they rely on these wireless connections to build community networks to make it possible for people in the region, in the area, those remote areas, those unconnected areas to be connected to the source, which is the internet. And so by doing that, we have many things, because when we go to internet, what are we looking on the internet? We are looking for content. The main content we are looking for right now, we as Ghanaian, we are looking for Yoruba content. What do I mean? Oyibo content. Let me use a Nigerian word. Yeah, Oyibo content. That's content from the white man. We'll look at Google's, Facebook's, Netflix, and so on and so forth. We have our own industries. We have our own contents. So why can't we create our own content and localize them? Why can't we have like Nollywood local in Africa? Why can't we have like streaming industries in Africa? Why can't we have social medias in Africa that are hosted in Africa, in Accra, maybe in data centers, in internet exchange points in Accra? Why can't we have that? As I just said, statistics shows that 80% of our internet surfing is out of Africa. And that's because we have less content. If we start building these networks, that I'm already going into the second part, which is like sharing how these networks will solve our problems, the problems of those that are not connected. So when we have well-running networks, first of all, we don't need internet to have an e-learning platform. We don't need internet. If you have a server in Accra where you install something like Claroline, Big Blue Button, EDX, Moodle, you can host lectures in that server, and you don't need to access the internet to go to that content. If you have a doctor, a nurse, which is in Accra, and there is some remote hospital somewhere, and you need this nurse to intervene in that remote area, you don't need internet. If you have a mesh, a connection, a network in the country, these people can actually work without going on the internet. They don't need the internet. They just need the local network, the country, the national network. If you have same network and you have farmers in Akrofu who are, let's say, they farm rice and all of this stuff, and they want to sell, they can access the national price by going on a website that is hosted in Accra. You don't need to go out of the country to access that website. The national, the national website, the e-government website, if you want to do things like passports, identity cards, you don't need that application to be hosted out of the country. The GH, you don't need to host it out of the country. All of those resources, those critical resources, are hosted in the country. And when we keep relying on the internet to access our local resources, it is forex. This is money that we are paying to people that we are not meant to pay. If all our resources, our local resources, our local content is kept local, then there is a lot of money we are going to save. That is, I mentioned education, I mentioned farming, I mentioned healthcare, I mentioned social life. We can share our social life in Ghana without going out of the country. We can have our local social servers. And look at what we are doing. We are generating a lot of content for the Facebook, the Google, and then they are using this as big data and data analytics on ourselves, and they are doing a lot of money on that. Why can't we have national or local or continental companies that can do that? So that was just like a contribution, saying internet is very important, the access to internet is very important, but we shouldn't access internet for everything. Things that are local, let's keep them local. Now let's also think about those that are unconnected. The lady who is in the village during COVID, they couldn't go to school. How do you help them to access content from the university, from the primary school, from the secondary school? How do they access this content? They don't need to go. Our websites, like 80% of our websites are hosted out of the country. Why? You will see .gh websites that are hosted in the US. That is not good. So we need, this is something we can bridge this gap by using community networks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Musa, for the submission. I think this answers the question that was raised by Mr. Clement. And then, as Mr. Musa clearly indicated, we should understand the difference between the internet and then a network itself. And we know that it is the network of networks that is actually called the internet. So as we group ourselves together and then try to build a small network in our community, once we have that infrastructure of the network, we are able to build all the other services. The other services are the applications that will run on the network. So if the infrastructure is okay, and then you have the your wireless, let's say your wireless SSID available as a wireless network within a community where you are not able to connect to the next community, you can, within the local community, get a small server, even if it's not a computer. It could be a Raspberry Pi, or it could be like any little computer that can serve the resources that you have. So if it's just one pamphlet of maybe a GHS book by one of the providers, maybe Akiola mathematics book, so you can have that digitized version of it on that computer over there in the rural community, where the local community members would be able to access that particular PDF and then they'll be able to read from it. That is in terms of education, and then to the other aspects of it. So I'm very happy we've been able to talk about this, and then we've indicated clearly the digital divide. That is those who are not fortunate enough to have connectivity. And then Mr. Musa was able to draw the line between those who are connected and then those who are not connected, when he brought in the example of the COVID era and all. So now we are going to look at how community networks connect the unconnected. And then in doing so, how is it bridging the connectivity gap or the digital divide gap? And looking at this, we are going to have our next speaker, Mr. Stephen Fosu, to join us here so that we'll be able to have that discussion going forward. Thank you very much for being with us still. And then let's invite Mr. Stephen Fosu. If Mr. Stephen is here, would you?
Yes, yes, please.
All right, thank you very much.
Please, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you. So
Yeah,
you can,
thank you, Fred.
All right.
Thank you, Fred. As already much has been discussed on the platform, knowing the community networks are networks owned by the community. Much time has been spent, so I will go straight to present on the topic given me how community network connects the unconnected and bridging the digital divide gap. In most deprived areas, such as island communities, the hard to reach areas and other places with either poor network or no network at all. Most of them are unable to access the internet for various activities, such as the academic, business, and some official duties. Especially the typical example is in Kobu Afam Place, where we have over 100 communities, but only few has access to the internet. Hello? Hello, please, can you hear me?
Yes, please, you can go ahead, Mr.
Okay,
Stephen.
okay. So as I was saying, these places are separated from the world by not getting access to the internet. So what community comes in is that the community network help or give a way to get them connected to the world. So in connecting this underprivileged group of people, the residential subscribers will have access to the internet from inside their homes and have access to the community resources. And this will encourage online businesses, virtual learning environments within the community, and also the broadcasting of important information, especially in this COVID-19 era. So the community network infrastructure would be configured in a manner that allows for a secure and independent access channel that will retain service quality, safety, privacy for both residential and visitors, customers in the community where access to internet is very bad. This help to bring the local people to make good use of the technology and also providing access to communication and information. And this link the communities to the cities. Now, we are talking, let's talk about how this thing can bridge a gap. I will take this one. For example, let's take the community networks. So the community networks, however, raise the standard of education in the community. By so doing, it deals with the lack of infrastructure in places that itself as impediment. And this where students in the community will now have access internet in their comfort zone for online virtual activities, as Mr. Musa was saying. So students also will be able to obtain affordable and cost-effective education while improving their quality. Now, schools, colleges, university students, especially what's happening in the COVID-19 era, most students, myself, were struggling to get internet to access our platform, the school portal, to do online quizzes and online exams. So we realized that the internet was very costly over here, especially in our farm place, where you buy data and then at the end of the day, you should not use for anything, and then the data just expired. So research students also can obtain information in relation to the research areas online, especially those who come to the deprived communities here. As Mr. Musa also said, when we host or we have our local content, yes, students can also get access to it, not necessarily by using the internet, as he said, if the servers are hosted locally. Putting school materials on it can also help them to build their knowledge base. The community network also provide means for students and teachers to communicate at a cheaper cost. And then it also helps students with latest updates in their studies, their field of studies. Now, I'd like to take the second one, that is what community network helps, especially when it comes to providing accessible and affordable internet with a practical impediment to subscribers and usage. Because we all know that a community network is a network that belongs to the community. Everybody or everyone in the community have access to it. Now, looking at it again, community network also help to enhance the quality of health delivery services. As Mr. Musa was also saying that nurses in these deprived communities, if you have been to a farm place before, our farm place is separated by rivers. I think Mr. Victor Asante has been here once, and then he knows how the whole place looks like, or how the whole place is. Very difficult to get information. And internet service, I can say over here, is underserved. In the sense that even browsing or opening a common page, sometimes we find it difficult here. For instance, this morning, Vodafone just went off from around 6 a.m. I think the Vodafone came up around 1:15 that way, before the service was restored. We didn't know what happened, no notice, nothing. So, assuming, let's say, a nurse want to get or have, how do we call it? Let's say a patient has come, and the nurse have seen symptoms that is not familiar to them, and then they just want to Google and then find out what sickness or what might cause that symptoms. Going online to check it may be difficult for them to, get the information about that symptoms that they want. Now, looking at it, the community network also help when it comes to the GPS in the deprived communities. Now, Ghana Post GPS, especially if you have ordered something from, let's say, Ghana or, let's say Accra or whatever it is, and then the postman or feeders want to deliver, because it is an island, when they get here, they can't really know where the person is. But with the help of, let's say, a community network in the community, as soon as he enters the community, he or she is able to connect to the community network and then can access the GPS and then locate whoever ordered the thing. Fred, I would like you to go to the slide, the 3. I would like to, so these are some of the community network we plan establishing 2012. Yeah, 2012. I tried this in Nungwa. Nungwa is a town in Greater Accra, where we're having the community network. But unfortunately, we were not able to maintain it because at that time they didn't understand what community network is. They didn't understand the use of the internet, and some were also having a different knowledge that it will give cancer because of the radiation and whatever, the antennas and so on. So it discouraged us, and then we were not able to maintain the project. So around the time, I was contacted by another man at Koforidua Adan in Krankanwe to also come out with such a project. So we established that the similar project at Koforidua in Krankanwe, where we were providing the community with internet. So we came out, and that one too, I think along the way, Vodafone also brought their services there. So people were patronized that one more than our own because of they're paying the maintenance fee. You know, they have that idea that if the network belongs to the community, then it is the government who funded it. So therefore, they don't need to make any contribution to support the project. When they are buying it, this one is for the government. Why are we paying something? Why are you doing this? And moreover, the charges or the maintenance fee is higher than me going to purchase Vodafone 1 CD for 1 hour at least. So because of that, we were not able also to maintain it, but it's partially functioning at the moment. Koforidua in Krankanwe. Let's move to the next one. Yeah, so these are some of the equipments that we use, and then as Mr. Musa was saying, the infrastructure. So we were using a lot of software applications, and mostly we were basing on the Ubiquiti products. That's the nano stations, the M5, and then 2.5 gigahertz. We were using the power beam, and then we also have our own content. We came out developing our own cloud storage, similar to Dropbox or Google Drive for the community. So they were able to store all their content on it. So along the way, we also developed a platform for the schools, whereby the students were able to access some materials without using the internet, because the school where we have the point-to-point means to the school are using the how do you call it, the radios, the nanos, power beam, the 5 gigahertz point-to-point to the schools, and the schools were able to access some of the materials locally without internet at their computer labs. Please move to the next one. Yeah, so the next one, the one on the max. So these are how we were bridging or connecting the other departments. So we have our transmission station at that place with Omni antenna. That's 360 degrees antennas where we do point to point, because every angle we are able to point or get a signal to other places. So we use the 5 gigahertz for long range. That is for how do we call it, institutions or the corporates or the district assemblies. And then we use the one at the right. That is the Omni antenna for the community. That's 2.4 gigahertz, which their phones, their tablets, or their laptops can get access to it. And then we're able to connect to the internet. The next one. So this is what we were doing. When you connect to the internet, the first thing that comes out is this portal. So it tells you to do the registration, and then you do the registration to become part of the of the community network. So this is what they do after you fill in the form, and then you pay a little amount. Then we open up to you depending the data or the bandwidth that you want. Then that's one place. So some of the systems are here that we use to monitor our clients, those who are online and those who are not also online. That's one. Yeah, so these are some of the things that we did. You can see at the top there, the left top, a residence or a house that we have connected using the power beam, the nano beam. This is 5 gigahertz. And the same year, and this is a cafe that's also benefited from the community network. So we're able to provide them with the internet where the students and the children go there to have access to the internet. That's fine. Okay. So Francis, I think I'll end here since time is much spent. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Fosu, for the wonderful presentation given us. We would allow Mr. Stephen Musa only to add up to this for us. That is how community networks connect the unconnected in bridging the digital divide. Thank you. Time is fast spent, so we'll reduce the time a little. Thank you.
Okay, so I think what I did already, can you stop sharing? So what I did already, I explained, and I'm leveraging on what Stephen just shared here to say, all right, you have the connected cities. So can I? Oops. All right. Okay. So you have the connected cities somewhere around here, and you have also the remote areas. These people here are not connected. Okay. So they need to get to the internet. And they need to get to the internet for several reasons. First is, as we said, education. You have commerce. You have health. You have entertainment. And you have like other stuff, name it. So we have many things that these people can do. Let's say at the national level, you have something that we can call e-governance. And in this e-governance, you have a website where you can have national ID cards, maybe passports. Because these websites are located, let's say in Accra, if here we are in Accra, these people that are remote, they can't access it. They can't also access the Facebooks. They can't buy on shops like, let's say, Amazon. So here you can see clearly that there is a divide. There is a divide, and this is unfair. These people, they have no access to this. And moreover, when I'm talking about the most important here is the education. And in the education, we have researchers who wants to do online researches. We have students who want to access PDFs online, whatever sites like all of these websites, the e-learning websites that we have online, like the EDX, lynda.com, and so on. So there are many of these websites that these unconnected people do not have access to. And therefore, we need to make sure that these people have access. So how do we do that? Now, first step is to make sure that we create those networks. First step is to make sure that we create the networks, and creating a networks here that is at this level is to connect these people in between them. And generally, we'll talk about a mesh topology. We'll talk about a mesh topology whereby you have several nodes that can connect together. And these nodes usually are access points. Like the most famous today are ubiquitous, and you can use whatever. You can use Cisco's, you can use MikroTik, and so on. Once these people have access to this network, maybe you can have some local servers here. And these local servers, you can host things like e-learning platforms where you store PDFs and normal e-learning content. But then you need to get them connected to the cities, that's Accra. You need to get them, and this last mile, we can do it either via VSAT, which is very expensive, or we can do fiber optic. So we can get a fiber optic from these remote areas to the closest city. Once we get that connection, they will not be able to have access to the eGov, to all of the resources provided by the government hosted in Accra or in the main city. And they will also have access through that means to the various Facebook, Amazon, WhatsApp, and so on. And then now they will start being connected. They will also have that possibility to access whatever resource somebody here in the city is accessing. So that's how this enables us. Someone is messing with me. That's how this enables us to get this unconnected to get connected. And by so doing, once these people are connected to the various main cities, because here I'm connecting only to Accra, we can connect to other main cities in such a way that even without being connected to the internet, these people can have access to good quality lecturers, to good quality healthcare staff, and so on and so forth. They could also, let's imagine a farmer in the remote location. Let's imagine a farmer here. This is just one application whereby if you have a farmer in this area, normally what these farmers are victim of what we call bayam selams. Those people will come from the city, they buy their crops at very cheap price, and then they go back to the city, sell at very, very high price. Now, if someone is smart enough in the city or everywhere else, they could create a website where they publish the prices of goods, like on a daily basis. So I just have my kilogram of rice here and I want to sell. This buyer is offering me 1 CD, but I just saw on the website that the price is 5 CD. So I can bargain the price. I can bargain the price and I can sell it for a higher price. If online there is a website for medical consultations, someone in the remote area, because they have access to this network, they can access that website and get medical information from a specialist from the city. So there are a lot of ways that these networks will help us. And also, something else that the networks, the community networks are good for, which I will illustrate. Let me just illustrate this last one, then we can be done. So let's say we are in the same country right now, and you have somebody in city A and another one in city B. Let's say this one is connected to MTN and this one is connected to Glo. The way things happen right now, provided there is no exchange point, is if I want to communicate with B, I'll go through MTN, which will go out of the country. And because they go out of the country, the cost here is, let's say one cedi. When it gets back to Glo's network, Glo's pay 1 cedi. We pay another cedi here. It gets to the resource here in B. When it gets back to Glo, here I forgot to say there is 1 cedi paid here, 1 cedi here, 1 cedi here, and 1 cedi here. When it gets back, I have to pay another cedi. Here, pay another cedi. Here, pay another cedi. And here, pay a cedi. Look at the cost of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm paying 8 cedis. Why? Because there is no interconnection in the country. The way we can solve this is by using two things: the community networks and the internet exchange points. Now, if these two were connected like this, it will cut this price and this price. We'll pay only 1 cedi here and 1 cedi here. So now it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've cut away 2. Now let's imagine that these two are sitting in the same community network. They don't even need to go through the service provider. So they are not paying for it. So that's how these community networks will help us connect those that are in these remote areas and make them also access the quality internet. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Musa, for clarifying things for us. I believe the participants on the call are very anxious about the time, but we have also been able to learn a lot about community networks today. So we would like to find out from Mr. Victor Asante if he's able to share the last aspect with us so that we move on within a quick session to find out the questions that we have available for the speakers.
Thank you, Fred. I think the previous speakers have largely dwelled on the issues that I will speak to on this session. But just a quick one. I would like to maybe speak to the success stories of some of these community networks. I mean, if you go to Zenzeleni, I'm sure most of us have heard of Zenzeleni. It's the poster, if I could use the word, poster boy for the community network revolution. And according to some literature that I came over, in 2018, for example, Zenzeleni registered 15,000 businesses in that small rural enclave. And there is about 15,000 as of the day that the survey was done. There's about 15,000 unique devices connected to that network. And it also has a traffic of about 20 terabits of traffic. That should tell you the kind of activity that is on that network. And it is said to be 20 to 100 times cheaper than the normal rates that typical mobile network operators will charge. Similarly, if you look at data from Rhizomatica, it's somewhere, I believe, South America, it has about 40 communities connected to it, and 40 community operators connected to it. It also has roughly in excess of 60,000 plus localities, that is areas that its service extend to. And there are about 3,500 users daily on that platform. The sum of all this thing is the community networks are providing very relevant service to these rural communities. If not for their activities, in Makonsi, for example, I don't know the fate that will befall the 15,000 businesses that are currently on their network. And the gentleman who just spoke, also highlighted the issue about local content. For example, Esoko is doing quite well in terms of ICT in agri in Ghana. But how many of our rural farmers are connected to their activity? Largely because of digital illiteracy. And then, of course, also, these areas are not connected to the internet. And so the services that are being rendered by Esoko, which is of relevance to farmers, are actually not being accessed by these farmers. A recent study by Ghana Statistical Service, the business tracker survey that they did just after COVID, it was indicated that close to about like 40% of SHS students missed out on how do we call it? The platforms that were extended to schools, the virtual learning, yes, the virtual learning opportunities that were extended. About 40% of SHS students missed out on those opportunities, largely because they didn't have access access to connectivity. And so the issue of community networks are extremely critical. You cannot be an island in this digital knowledge system that we have presently. If you are not connected to the internet, there are opportunities that you miss out. So these are largely my thoughts on this aspect of the program.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Victor, for this as well. So now we will move on to the participants. In case anyone have questions for the speakers, answer for us. So I think we have a way of raising your hand in the Zoom platform. So you can check for it and then you click on it, like you raise your hand and the host will be able to give you access.
You have two hands raised. So you have Timothy and Owen.
Okay. I thank you very much. It's my first time of joining the ISOC, and I think hearing the various presentations on the ground, I'm very excited, and I think there's a lot more that we need to also consider. For example, the equipment ecosystem. Okay, so if there are internet in the rural areas and people are not able to connect them, what is the next step? So I think these are other things that we also need to look at. The equipment ecosystems, the pricing also goes into this. So how we are able to ensure that people in the rural areas are being able to get cheaper tablets, cheaper Android phones, Android operating phones, in order to be able to connect and tap onto the internet to benefit from the content. Now, we also look at the means to bring this internet to the people. Now, being it spectrum related, being it via satellite, or being it via fiber. Now, all these things have their pros and cons. I think in our discussions, we need to be very broad, because there are also some regulatory interventions, just like I think the first presenter, I think that Victor or someone, I've forgotten the name, also made mention of it. So if the government is pushing for like internet roaming, where in a particular area, all the operators can say that, okay, let's push one service provider there, very good service, both internet and voice, and that all other internet service providers will be roaming on them. I think this will also be a possible means in order to reduce this deficit. I thank you very much. I'm also an expert in that area, and I think I'll be willing to share much information. I'm a radio communication engineer, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for sharing with us, Mr. Timothy Ashong. Any other person? So we can quickly run the session down.
Hello, my name is Iwan Hassan Tata. Calling I'm from Nigeria, actually, in particular, Internet Society Nigeria chapter. First of all, I would like to congratulate ISOC Ghana for this wonderful event. It has been very enlightening and educative, I must say. I have a comment and a question. The comment has to do with Mr. Clement's assertion that community networks start with, the concept of community network came by as a result of trying to connect the unconnected. So what are we connecting, or where are we connecting the unconnected to? We are actually trying to connect them to the internet. And the community network tries to achieve this by using the economy of scale. Of course, we know that telecommunication industries do not see the financial viability of setting up in rural communities, especially because of the scarce population. And we know that for a base station that is set up by a telco, they will require a minimum of 3,000 subscribers to be able to break even. So like this is hard to come by in a rural community. So now what we try to do in community networks is, okay, why not let us pull all these people together and let us just probably use a single connection for us to be able to at least communicate to the internet, and at the same time also be able to send out contents locally. So this is part of the reason why community networks have been thriving, really, not really to only have local communication within ourselves, but also to make those rural communities to be able to communicate with the outside world. And that has been the driving force for Zinzeleni network and Matcha Walks that we have in Eastern Africa, and a lot of other community networks. And I'm glad to tell you that also here in Nigeria, we're actually working on a community network. It's called the Zaria CN Community Network. And we're also using the same model in order to be able to communicate with the outside world. That's just the comment anyway. And my question goes thus, there was a particular presentation, I think by Mr. I can't remember the name actually, he was given a model of the way they are able to create or make their community network viable. My question is that community network located in rural community? If it's located in a rural community, then how then do we handle the issue of illiteracy? Because if somebody has to come in and log in, like fill a form or something like that on the computer system before he starts using that particular community network, it's as if we are actually barring the illiterate ones. And of course, we know we're trying to connect the unconnected. So probably they need to look at something like that and how they can actually link up the people that have difficulty in reading and writing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the submission, Mr. Owa. That was great. So the question, I think the question goes to Mr. Stephen Fosu. Mr. Stephen Fosu. I don't know if any of the other speakers would like to attempt that, but Mr. Stephen Fosu, the question goes to you.
Oh, hello. Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Before, hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yeah. Before we take such a project, we have people who goes to the community to educate the people, and then we have the people who will train them, especially those who are based there. We train them to assist those who are illiterate, who cannot register. We do that just to know the members that we have on the system, so that we can monitor, regulate, and see whether we are paying, because we pay for a backbone ISP. Whether we will know whether we are doing underutilizing the bandwidth that we have paid for, or we are using more than that. So the portal we just use that one to know the number of people we have on the system, and then how they are using the system for us to do upgrade, or we have to degrade the system. So we have people that we have fully trained them to educate those who are illiterate or assist them, the illiterate ones. Thank you.
Okay, also Tata, just to add on what Stephen just said, part of the response is in your comment. When you said to do a project like that, you need to first of all study. And when you study, part of the study is to look at the potential people that are going to connect. So if you don't have enough people, let's say you are buying 1 gig band, a 1 gig link to Glow, and that 1 gig link, let's say, is costing 1,000 cedis. You need to make sure that the people that are going to connect in that remote area, the number of people that are going to connect would be able to pay this fee back. So that's part of the feasibility study. And when you look at these people that are going to connect, you look potentially at their educational level. If you are in an area where everybody is uneducated, then you have an issue there. Then maybe you consider, are these people young enough that you can train them and they will be able to use the systems? That's two. Because if they are not, then I don't see the need, except you will consider a system where you have people that are in that region who will be assisting these illiterates somehow to access your system. So that is part of the feasibility study.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stephen Fosu and then Mr. Stephen Musa for the answers given. Let me ask this to, let me point this to Mr. Musa. There is a question from the chat that what is your selection criteria for communities who benefit from your projects? I think selection
No,
criteria for
this is for Victor, probably.
Victor? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Hello, Mr. Victor Asante. Hello. Is Mr. Victor Asante on the call?
Yes. Hello?
Before you answer that, Mr. Victor, let me retreat the question again and then add the second question that I wanted to direct to you. So the first one is from Dorcas to all of us in the group. That what is your selection criteria for communities who benefit from your projects? That is the GIFEC projects. Then the second question, the person was asking, this is from Wazanai, if I mentioned it wrongly, forgive me. She is also asking that how is the licensing issue being addressed in Ghana, that we have that problem in Zimbabwe? How is the licensing issue being addressed in Ghana, that they have that problem in Zimbabwe? Thank you, Mr. Victor Asante. So you can
Yes,
take it.
in respect of the selection criteria, we are guided largely by the, we are supposed to go to unconnected or underserved communities. And so any community that falls within this category essentially qualifies for support from our institution. So we don't really have a criteria, so to speak, about selecting of communities. Maybe the next level might be in partnership with the operators. If it is, let's say, MTN or whatever operator that we decide to partner with. Usually, they look at the average, their commercial interest. But we as a state entity, minded by the fact that every Ghanaian and every community deserves to be part of the digital climate, we do whatever that is required of us to ensure that even if that community doesn't fit the criteria of the operator, we facilitate by giving support to ensure that that operator or any operator will deploy to that community so that no person, irrespective of where the person is resided, is denied connectivity. So we don't really have a criteria. Per the Universal Service Fund, we don't really have a criteria. As long as you fit the bill of unserved or underserved, you are eligible to apply for support. In respect of the license, that is the reserve of the regulator. We don't grant license. The farthest we can do probably is to facilitate by supporting whichever operator is desirous of going to a rural community. We do that facilitation with the NCA, but that mandate doesn't lie with us. It lies with the operator. Thank you.
And also for support, I think organizations like ISOC, they will support, like if you see ISOC supports community networks around the world, like in Zimbabwe and other countries, Argentina and so on, they support. So maybe if you have a community network project, you can liaise with them. They will support with trainings and forms and also champions to help you build your community network. I also see a question there about pricing. So the pricing all depends. Remember we said you have to do like a lean budget. When you do your lean budget, you identify the type of devices you want to use. When you do the feasibility study, when you come out with the feasibility study, you know exactly where you want to install your towers. If you are going big, like having a data centers, things like that. You know where to install all of those. So you have a list of devices that you want to use in your network. And then from that, depending on the brand, you will now come up with the budget. So there is nothing like a budget. That's there is no standard budget for building community networks. When you saw when Victor was presenting, he presented some areas that where you have a lot of hills. Building a community network in such a region is very difficult compared to somewhere there where there are not hills, right? Because the access is easy, and then maybe the next mile is also very easy. Also, considering things like the closest location for electricity and the internet, all of those come in account. So the things we can give you here are the elements for budget, not like a budget, like there is a budget, let's say $5,000 is enough for you to build a community network. No, there is nothing like that. There are people who even build community network with, how will I say, with, how do you call it in French? We call them déchets. That is, they'll build their own antennas out of hand. They won't buy antennas from the market. They'll fabricate their own antennas using kitchen stuff, things like that. So it all depends on what you want to achieve, the area, and maybe the closeness to the service provider and the electricity supplier. Okay, Fred?
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much for the add-on submission from Mr. Musa. So I think the time is very far gone, and then we would like to call on Mr. Billy James, if Mr. Billy James is here, so that he will give us a vote of thanks for us to continue. Thank you very much to all the speakers for the wonderful submissions. We really appreciate your time, Mr. Musa, Mr. Stephen Fosu, Mr. Victor, Mr. Clement, for all the wonderful discussions that have been done here. I believe all the participants have enjoyed the session so much. Even though the time has elapsed, they still waited and they are still here with us. So we'll call on Mr. Billy James, if Mr. Billy is here, to give us the vote of thanks.
Mr. Fred Kweju-Azori, it's an honor to be part of this particular webinar. It's always a joy to be on the same panel with you back in 2015 until now, doing very well. And I'm so glad that we've been able to have this webinar. The best and the beautiful things in the world cannot be seen and or even touched. They are felt by their heart. Thank you is one such prayer among them. I consider it as a privilege to propose a vote of thanks to all our dignitaries who have contributed to a memorable and successful event. Today, our words will not be enough to express the gratitude that we may have. On behalf of Internet Society Ghana chapter, I would like to thank our special guest, Mr. Clement of Dream Village Foundation, Stephen Fosu, Mr. Stephen Hulu, and Mr. Victor Asante for doing a great job and who graced us with their thought-provoking address to set a perfect platform for building community network in Ghana. And I would like to thank our beloved moderator for all his efforts in radiating a sort of energy within us with his moderation. We will ever remain grateful to you, and we thank you for being with us today. Heartfelt also goes to all our ISO Ghana executive, led by our very own president, Mr. Francis Amani, who also stand by us, guide us, lead us, and motivate us. We feel proud and thank you for making us feel happy with your presence to this function. This event of this dimension cannot happen overnight. The wheel started rolling weeks in advance, and we have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated committee members and volunteers. I cannot thank everyone enough for the involvement they have shown and the willingness that they have expressed to take on the completion of tasks beyond their comfort zone. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants for showing their interest in this program and staying true to the end. At the beginning, it was only 29 participants who were online, but to the very end, we had 46 participants, which is a good cause. We hope to have more participation the next time around. Thank you very much to all who assembled here, and have a great day and a great weekend in advance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Billy James. So the president of Ghana chapter would like to share a little with us. So thank you. Mr. President, please, are you on?
I'm here, Fred. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay.
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Fred, for the wonderful moderation, and I thank you all once again for staying. Although we've gone past our time, we've done more than 2 hours, but we still have people staying with us, and I'm so grateful. I want to thank our speakers, Mr. Musa, Clement, Stephen, and Victor, for making time to teach us more about community network. As we all know, the vision of Internet Society is connecting the unconnected, and the way to go is community networks, because before you can connect someone who is underserved or unserved, the way to go is community networks. And this webinar has been very insightful and very informative. And I think we should have a version 2 of this webinar. So I will work with my executive and work another webinar on the part 2 of this series. And I want to appreciate the support from colleagues from other chapter. I see people from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Kenya, Senegal, and I'm very grateful for supporting the initiative of Ghana. And we also pledge our allegiance to supporting the initiative. So I think Victor is here. I don't know whether Victor would want to add his voice and say a word before we close. But before Victor comes in, I would want everyone to turn on your video so that we take a photo. So if you can, if where you are, you can turn on your video. Turn on your video so that we take a photo for future reference. So if you can turn on a video, I'm very grateful. So turn on your video as you take a picture. Okay. All right, so are we ready? Okay, so I'm taking the photo. Okay, done.
You need to go to page 2 as well, except if you have all those 28 people.
All right, so I'll take another one.
Yeah, there are 2 pages, yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay, so.
You have more people even.
Wow.
Take it again.
Okay.
We actually have people sharing.
I see Victor on the page 2. Okay, so yeah. Victor, I'm taking your team. Okay. Good. We're gone. Okay, so, and I'll take the last page. Let me save it quickly. Okay, so. Okay, so I think that is it. Okay, 2 pages. All right, so thank you once again. So Victor, I'll be grateful if you can say a word. We are grateful for your presence here, and we appreciate your effort and your support to the chapter. So Victor, over to you.
Can we please mute our microphones? Sorry.
Hi, Francis. Hi, everyone. Just congratulations for the webinar. So I'm home with the kids. So
yeah.
So well done. It was a great conversation. It is really a good thing to see how our chapters can take the conversation to the local level and continue our work of connecting the unconnected. So thank you. Well done.
Thank you, Victor. Okay, so Mr. Fred Azori, over to you.
All right. I would like to say a very big thank you to all of us who joined this session for their wonderful conversations. The conversations are so interesting, and then all of us believe, and then all of us would accept with me that it was really a very good session that we had today. So once we are done with this session, we would like to say Boza to all of you. We'd like to say thank you to everyone. We'd like to say Akpe. We'd like to say Mercy. We'd like to say like all the other languages that I would not be able to say. I would say Medas. So God be with us.
Nagori. Asante sana, shukran.
So,
Asante sana, yo, from East Africa.
Everyone next time when we call. Thank you very much and have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Akpe Medasi.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Okay,
Mr. Victor, Mr. Asante, I'll be in your office soon.
Well, yes, that's okay. Anytime you are ready, just let me know.
I look forward to engaging you.
That's okay.
Mr. Victor, we will have a discussion on the farm place.
After the farm place, me and you and Francis, we did talk.
Okay. Oh, okay. Then our president, Mr. President, the community will go mountains, straight up to the mountains.
Don't worry. So, okay. So let's watch that for 2020. Ghana must win.
I hear you.
See you guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.